Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hey, good morning. Scott Luton right here with you on Veteran Voices. Welcome to today's show. Got a great conversation teed up. We have a fellow veteran of the United States Air Force that is moving mountains to help our fellow veterans in veteran communities. So stay tuned for what promises to be an uplifting and inspiring and intriguing conversation. Hey, quick programming note before we get started. This program is part of our Supply Chain Now family of programming, really our Give Forward programming. You can find Veteran Voices wherever you get your podcasts from, and be sure to check out our partners over at Vets2 Industry, which are doing some great things. They're a great nonprofit helping veterans and veterans in transition, folks in need, connect the dots with all the great resources, including the one you're going to hear about today. So you can learn more at vets2industry.com. Okay, so with no further ado, I'll welcome in our featured guest. Our guest served as a security specialist in the U.S. Air Force from 1991 to 95. After earning 4 degrees, raising a family, she was inspired to start a very unique grassroots-driven veterans organization, one that raises awareness, which is really important, and financial support for veterans in crisis and in need. She is certainly a hero in my book. So please join me in welcoming Gretchen Smith, founder of Code of Vets. Gretchen, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting Code of Vets on. I'm so excited about sharing our mission today.
Hey, we are too. You know, we've been tracking you from afar. I love as we were talking in the pre-show, I love just the practicality. Of course, your purpose and passion is awesome, but just the meet a need and we're going to tackle it. That is a beautiful thing. So I look forward to learning more about Code of Vets. But before we get to that, we really want to dive into your journey. You know, you've been so focused and your mission's so focused on everyone else. Let's learn more about Gretchen Smith. So for starters, tell us where you grew up and you got to give us the goods on your upbringing. Give us some anecdotes.
You know, I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. I'm a mountain girl, Tar Heel. Both of my parents are from Waynesville, North Carolina. That's where my dad is buried, in Waynesville. Just a very simple, I grew up in a poor environment. I didn't have a lot of opportunities within, in the mountains. And so as I was growing up, my dad was very patriotic. All of the men in my family had served in the military. So it was, for me, it just made sense to join the military. It gave me a chance to get out of the mountains and to experience life. And boy, did it ever. Because basic training was different for me. With my Southern accent, I just was, really immersed into the world of diversity, because the military is truly a microcosm of our nation. It's great with diversity. So for me, that was my first journey into the world of a diverse world. And I loved every moment of it. I was like a sponge. I soaked it up. So that was really, just a great way for me to grow up and become an adult in the military. It gave me stability. It gave me a future, just provided me with the tools that I needed. I met my husband over in Germany. It was, and we just knew, we clicked right away. He's a Buckeye from the state of Ohio. We met, we fell in love, got married over there. We actually, started our family over in Germany, got pregnant. Awesome. And it just was we have a beautiful history together. We created this great life. I'm so proud of my family. And I did earn 4 degrees as a direct thanks to the Air Force. And the Air Force gave me this drive, this purpose of wanting to better myself, to be all I can be, and just to aim high. So that's what I did.
So, all right. So I'm going to back up and I want to kind of unpack this a smidge. So first off, when I hear about someone growing up in North Carolina, I'm from South Carolina, and food runs in our blood, right? And of course, barbecue in those 2 states and across the country is important. Did you grow up? Was it Waynesville?
Waynesville.
Waynesville. Is that the east side or the west side of North Carolina?
Yeah, the western North Carolina mountains. It's in Haywood County, which butts up against the Tennessee line.
Okay, so when it comes to barbecue, then that the west side of North Carolina is Is that no sauce and all about the smoke and the meat?
Oh yeah, oh, absolutely.
I always get that confused. In South Carolina, you have you have like seems like 12 different traditions. I was raised on mustard based sauce, right? Mustard based pork barbecue, it being from Aiken. So Waynesville, so that's Western style barbecue. Anything else when you were growing up there? Anything else that you look back on? I mean, clearly it sounds like you had a challenging upbringing given the set of circumstances, but what else was really special? What else, when you look back and you think about before you joined the military, what really stands out as maybe like a family tradition?
You know what? It was a really simple life. And one thing that really stands out to me is that I grew up and we ate from a garden. That was just a day-to-day, part of our life. Would go out and pick or, grab the potatoes or whatever we want to eat that night. For me, those are great memories, and it's a very healthy way to grow up. And we
Yes.
were always out in the woods. I was always out there with my brothers and friends, building tree houses and swinging on grapevines. So there's a lot to say for that lifestyle. It
Agreed.
might have been, sheltered and a little bit, I want to say, ignorant to the world, because when you grow up in the mountains, you're very isolated. But it was a very simple way to grow up. And so I have, it was challenging, but I also have some beautiful memories. And and I think I'm the person I am today because of the way I grew up. And when growing up poor, I'm very humble. I appreciate everything that we have worked for. So some great traits come along with that.
Great. Excellent points. Excellent points. Okay. So now, when it comes to joining the military, did you view joining the Air Force as a way to kind of see the world, or was it about getting a job, or what appealed to you?
You know what? It was all the above. I wanted a way out of the mountains. I wanted to experience life and the world. I wanted to know what it was all about. I was 18 years old. And so I joined the Air Force, and the Air Force appealed to me. The Army and Marines looked like it was going to be a little bit tough. So I chose the Air Force, and boy, did I choose right. I have to tell you, when I first walked into the dining room, because I did grow up poor, I thought I was a millionaire. I just walked in the dining room and I was in awe of the desserts. They had them beautifully displayed in this glass encasement, and I just was so impressed with my decision. I just walked around with such pride in my uniform. The little things mattered to me. Some people may not take notice of that, but for me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I really did something with my life here. So I was able to start taking college classes while I was in the service. My supervisor was very much on board with pro education and gave me the green light to do that. And he really inspired me. We actually took a couple of classes together. And so I really have some fond memories of Sergeant Carr, just being a motivator, a mentor. I wanted to be like him. He just had it all together. Great guy. And for me, that's what got me hooked on education. And that's how I ended up with 4 degrees, was based on him and his journey, and just him being there for me as I was growing up.
Love it. So Sergeant Carr was clearly one person that stood out and had a big impact on both your time in the uniform, probably also just your overall journey. Anyone else? Obviously, Joe was a great person you met while in uniform. Who else sticks out as someone that really impacted your time in service?
You know what? She was only in my life briefly, but I have to mention Sergeant Hound. She was one of my drill instructors, my tech instructors, and she was hardcore. She was a fierce personality, and I really did. I struggled a little bit in basic training with the physical component, but with the mental, where they, they're in your face yelling. It was very difficult. So I struggled a little bit. She noticed that, and one day she brought me into her office and she sat me down and she shut the door. And I got a little bit teary because I didn't know what was going on, but she really gave me a motivational speech. And she said, Gretchen, I see a lot of myself in you when I was your age. I just want you to know you're going to be okay. You're going to make it, and it's going to be worth it. You keep pushing it. You keep, giving it your best. You're going to survive this. So she gave me that speech, and it just gave me a sense of pride that she, chose me to bring me in, to give me that speech and to say, hey, you're going to be all right. You're going to, I needed that.
Right.
So I will always remember her. And it was just that brief 6 weeks that I was with her, but boy, did she set the tone for the rest of my 4 years of service, because she really did instill of, I can do this. She just gave me that encouragement that I needed.
That is such a beautiful message, Gretchen, because, as we talk a lot with folks that we interview or sidebar conversations, especially during the pandemic, you never know that 2-minute conversation that you have with someone that they're going through a hard time. You never know the impact you can have just with words, just with an uplifting message, even if you never see them again. Two folks passing through an airport, you never know the impact you'll have. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay. So I want to move. We got so much to tackle, and I want to take a deeper dive in Code of Vets. So beyond the people, and you met Joe in Germany, and y'all have been married now 27 years. You were telling me pre-show, right?
Yep, that's right.
Holy cow! Now, was he also active duty Air Force?
Yes. Yeah. He served 5 years. He was in transportation logistics. He's a supply chain guy now. He ended up with 4 degrees as well. I motivated him in that area. But yeah, we've built a beautiful life, and we do look back, and we can attribute that to our time in the service. Just gave us the tools that we needed. As I said before, we've created our version of the American dream.
Love that. Okay. So folks, if you're listening and the supply, we're a little bit partial to supply chain around here, the end-to-end global supply chain industry. If you're listening, it offers wonderful opportunities for service members. So if you haven't checked it out and you're still doing your homework about where you want to work and what sectors and whatnot, make sure you check out the supply chain industry. Okay. So now let's talk about, before we talk about your transition, one of my favorite questions to ask, because we have so many key takeaways and those Eureka moments, right? Where something dawns on you that maybe you hadn't thought about. And then you kind of sticks with you. What was a key Eureka moment during your time in uniform?
I had several of them. I grew up so sheltered, just, interacting with all the different personalities and individuals from different regions of the country. It made me, I just started embracing people. I love being around everybody, anybody and everybody. I love hearing everybody's journeys, their stories, their accents. For me, it was different. So just the world of diversity has really always been a draw for me. And I think that you can see that in Code of Vets, in how, and how we work and who we help. It's just, we help everybody across the board. I love them all. They're all my brothers and sisters in arms. So I feel like I really brought that sense, that love of community from the military over into the civilian world. And now I'm giving it back, through back to the veteran community through Code of Vets. So I love being around people of anybody through living in our country, growing up in different ways. I made such good friends with so many different people in the Air Force. And we do come from all walks of life, Scott, that. And it's just a really good mesh. And I just love how they tear us down as individuals and build us up as a team, and we work as one. And I loved that. It made me feel like I was part of something. And so that, all of that is a Eureka moment of, I want to take this, and this is how I want to live my life. I want to embrace everyone that comes in my life, and be the person, to say, hey, what do you need? What can I do for you? How can I make your life better? Because, I know what it's like to grow up in a rough situation. In difficult circumstances, and it's really caused me to say, hey, I'm going to give back. I want to be a part of your journey, and let's see what we can do.
And give back, you certainly have, which we're going to touch on in a second. But I appreciate you sharing that, because while certainly, like any other organization, the military has its challenges, right? We've seen some of the things that the Army's going through and other services. However, there's so many things the military gets right, and one of them is its approach to embracing diversity. Just like you, I look back on the brothers and sisters I served with and where they were from, across the country, and really for that matter, across the world. Many folks were earning their citizenship while serving in the U.S. Air Force during my time. And I think it's still a popular program these days. It's a wonderful thing. So I appreciate you sharing the impact it had on kind of your worldview and how you approach serving. And it clearly, you are serving all. We've all seen the campaigns you're running, and I don't think you've met with someone yet that you haven't been ready to jump into their life and help them out. So let's talk about, it's a transition with here at Veteran Voices. If we've heard challenging circumstances around anything, top of the list, it's transitions. I had it, frankly, I had it made. I had a 4-year degree. I didn't have 4 degrees, but I had a 4-year degree. was not a combat veteran, so I didn't have, challenging things like PTSD. I was going back home. I had a family and support network there. I could not find a job. I didn't know how to find a job, and it took me a long time, especially to find that groove, right? So let's talk about your transition. Let's describe that if you would, and then I'd love to kind of have you give some advice to folks that may be navigating their own transition right now.
Well, I had a tough time with transitioning as a female veteran because I had gotten pregnant at the end of my tour of duty, and I did not know at the time. So we'd signed all of our paperwork, and we had waived any type of carryover for insurance because I didn't know. So once we did get out, Joe and I were this young couple, 22, 23 years old. His plan was to go to college. Mine was to work because I was able to attain my bachelor's degree while I was serving. And so I was going to get this great big paying job and, take care of us while he went to school. Well, little did we know life happens, and we got this baby on the way, and no insurance company would cover us. So we had been able to save this little nest egg. We were so proud of it. And we actually had gone through the winter without heat because we wanted to minimize our bills and,
Wow.
save as much as we were hardcore. So we got out, all of our nest egg went to our baby, went to our maternity doctor and to childbirth because we couldn't get that coverage until after I'd given birth. And finding a job pregnant is not easy either. So I was trying to conceal the pregnancy. We were trying to pay for the pregnancy on our own, and it was a struggle. We had a few months where we ate peanut butter and hot dogs. But it really bonded us together. It could have torn us apart, but it did the opposite. We came together as a team, and we're like, we're going to get through this. We've got our service history behind us. We can get through anything together. So Joe and I became very tight during those times, and he did go to college, earned his degree. I was able to get a job as a probation officer, making $15,000 a year, because this was back in 1995. But that was very difficult to live on as a young family of three. And once I did have the baby, I had just gotten the job at 8.5 months pregnant. So I worked 2 or 3 work weeks, and then I had my daughter. And so during that time off with her, I was not paid. So we really struggled starting out in life. And that's a tough transition. We can laugh about it now, but going through those moments, there were some tears, and there was some worry and concern of, can we do this? But we did it. We figured out a way. We made it work. And fast forward 27 years, here we are. We got this incredible life. So the world of transition it's hard. It is hard. Because life can throw you some curveballs, just like the pregnancy. It wasn't planned. We were, prepared. We weren't ready for that, but we made it work. But we had such a good, solid foundation with each other. And a transition can be very tough on veterans when they are coming back to dysfunctional homes or family environments, or if they are completely on their own. And that's what I've run into as the founder of Code of Vets. Is there's a lot of challenges when we get out of the military.
So let's we want to talk a lot more about that, because as we were talking pre-show, while the awareness and while I think what I would say corporate support and understanding, we've moved the needle a little bit over the last 5-10 years from what I've seen, we still got a long way to go. So let's talk about Code of Vets. So first off, before we talk about why you're wild, tell us what it is first. What is Code of Vets?
Code of Vets is a very unique organization because we actually function on social media. We are a strictly social media 501c3 veteran organization, and primarily we are on Twitter. And I have never seen another org out there who operates the way we do. I believe we're cutting edge. We operate on 2% budget because the way we function, we're very grassroots. I have a partner, Dr. Cindy Walter, who has her PhD in public health. She is a phenomenal professional veteran advocate and has been advocating for veterans for many years, way before Code of Vets. And she brought a skill set to the table that I did not have and that I needed. And that was being able to vet veterans, in this social media atmosphere was very difficult. But the way her system was set up, she was already set up to do it. So it was just a match made in heaven. God really did. We crossed paths for a reason. We make a fierce team. We're able to assist the veterans across the nation in every state, every day, by using the Twitter platform. We do direct them to the Code of Vets website, and they fill out the vet need form. She vets the veterans and looks at their needs, vets the needs as well. We triage our cases. And then once she has approved them and starts working with them, especially our homeless vets who are at risk for homelessness, then she will send them to me to raise funds. I'm the fundraiser. I share a little bit of their journey, their picture, I make the heart connection with the donor. And it really is, it's simple. We set it up in a simple way, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes. But we're doers. We don't talk about it. We do raise awareness by our actions, but we are not out there just to talk about veterans' issues and needs. We're actually in the weeds with the veterans every day.
I love it. Deeds, not words. That's what makes things happen. That's what helps people. That's what gets homeless veterans off the street into their home. Without naming names, we've had folks on this podcast right here, a family of 5, as I recall, I believe, that went a couple months during the pandemic without a place to live, and they credit getting themselves back into a home through the work y'all do at the Code of Vets. So that is, hammer and nail, and hammer meets nail sometimes can be a beautiful thing. And I love I mean this is a compliment. I love the simplicity of how you operate, you and your team and your partner, and really how streamlined it is, and how the funds that y'all are able to raise, man, you're moving mountains, and the bulk of those, 98%, it sounds like, are going to help those in need. So let's, so now I want to talk about your inspiration. Let's go back. First off, when did you found it, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Well, I founded it back in 2017, October of 2017 to be exact. My kids are grown. I've got all this time on my hands, and I wanted to do something to honor my dad. I lost my dad in his battle with PTSD. He served 2 tours of duty in the jungle in Vietnam. He was airborne infantry, just did a lot of things in the jungle, witnessed a lot of trauma. And he never really did get the help that he needed, Scott. He did reach out to the Asheville, North Carolina VA when he had initially gotten back, because his behavior was so out of control. He was having night tremors, he was having nightmares. He was self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. He was a mess. His behavior on the outside was very chaotic, and I think it was a direct reflection of how he felt on the inside. He was broken. He was carrying all of this that he needed to talk about. Well, when he reached out for help, the doctor basically told him it was something called shell shock, and that he needed to suck it up and be a man, and to shove it way down deep and never speak of it again.
Wow.
We've made great strides since that era. I don't believe they tell our vets that anymore, but back then they did. And it just destroyed my dad. It ate away at my dad like a cancer. His life was always up and down. There was some periods of stability. I have some good memories with dad, but we ended up losing him. We just could not get him to go get the help to sit down. And I truly believe if a brother in arms would have sat down with him and said, Danny, let's talk about what's going on. Let's try to figure out how to get you the help you need. There's just that camaraderie. Brotherhood is powerful, and it's real. And I believe in it because I've witnessed it through Code of Vets. And I truly believe that, a brother in arms could have helped my dad, whereas a civilian just didn't understand. And I just, I wanted to do something to honor my dad because he was a good man. He had a good heart, and he was very troubled, and he had a shattered spirit. And so through Code of Vets, we've actually saved several lives. We've given veterans second chances at life. And it's just been a beautiful way to honor dad and to create a legacy for him.
Gosh, you shared a ton there, and an hour never does any of powerful conversation justice. But just as a very important aside, your father's name was Danny E. Smiley, and certainly rest in peace, sir. The legacy of what he's created in you and your passion, your purpose, and all the great things you've done. I mean, what an incredible living legacy. So I appreciate you sharing. So what about, I want to touch on one thing, like you, we're both careful to generalize. However, you referenced a period in time, if any civilians are listening, and folks that may have never served but are big veteran supporters and advocates, one of the reasons that veterans don't go get, even today, go out and get the help they're looking for, because during a lot of different units and branches and organizations within the military, they get the advice that your father, your late father received. Suck it up, put your boots on, go out and do it. You're fine. And that, you don't, oftentimes veterans don't want a signal that there's something wrong. And we've got to change that. And you and your partner probably see that firsthand. Is that right, Gretchen?
Yeah, we do. We do. Our veterans don't want to talk about it. They don't want to reach out. They don't want to appear weak, because they are our warriors. Our combat vets are, the front lines of defense for our nation. And they want to be strong. And there's pride is involved as well. It's a pride thing. But also there's the other components. It's very complex with PTSD, with suicidal issue in our community. Security clearances are at risk. A lot of our veterans come out with security clearances and use those to gain employment after the military. And they do not want to say, I need help, I'm struggling with my PTSD, or I feel like I may have a TBI issue. They don't want to lose that clearance, because it's who they are. It's how they make their living. And also Second Amendment rights are at stake. I've actually, seen a veteran have their rights removed because he reached out for help.
Wow.
And he was in the VA psych ward getting the help he needed, but at that time they took his gun rights, and it's not right. We need to talk about these things and shine a light on, when our veterans do come forward, because it's tough for them to come forward in the first place. We don't need to punish them for it. We don't need to remove things from them because they say, I need help. I can't do this by myself anymore. So it's important that we do highlight that, Scott, and talk about it.
I hadn't really thought about those last two. You learn something new every day, whether you've worn the uniform or you hadn't. I've never really thought about, especially the security clearance piece, because there is there's a healthy, vibrant government service and related industry for folks as a transition out of the military. That you're right, they do use those clearances. I never even thought about that and how that could be at stake if they say, hey, I need to talk with somebody. So that's an excellent point. And it is a very complex issue, as is the suicide rates that we're seeing. There's so many different factors, but if we can just work together to get the awareness out there, that's doing a lot of good. So I appreciate you sharing. And I've got, speaking of which, I've got a ton of really powerful information and facts and stats on your website, codeofvets.com. I mean, approximately 40,000 homeless veterans on any given night. And I believe that is a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development stat, if I'm not mistaken. And that's probably conservative because of the lack of.
I believe it's upwards of 60,000 now due to the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the past year alone, the number of diagnosed PTSD cases in the military jumped 50%, and that's only reported and diagnosed cases. And that's just a couple of the reasons for why we've got to double down on our support of our veteran community. There's a lot more. Y'all can check it out at codeofvets.com. All right, so we want to talk about, there's good news if you look for it. There really, even these most challenging times, there's good news. And I want to talk about some of your wins. I've seen them. You're a great, Code of Vets is a great Twitter follow. And I love to see all the work being done, number one, but I love to see, when the need is met. That's something we should all celebrate. So, of all the wins that Code of Vets has enjoyed, what's been a couple of your favorite ones?
Well, we had a veteran reach out to my partner, and he was in a very difficult situation. He was in a VA, not in a VA. It was a VA. There was money being sent to this homeless halfway shelter out in California, and they actually were neglecting him. They were not feeding him enough. He had emailed this long, all this information to my partner, and it was truly was an emergent situation. So we actually extracted him from this facility and moved him to a place where we knew he would be safe and be fed. And we have been with this guy for well over probably pushing 3 years. He's a great success story. Got the help that he needed, found a job, was in this halfway house, so to speak, and really got back on his feet bought his car. He had lost his license, hadn't had him in a few years, but he was regaining his sense of independence. And he had served, he was a combat vet. So he had lost, that along the way, just, that brotherhood, that camaraderie, or, what's my purpose in life? And slowly he rebuilt that, and he rebuilt his, just his pride and his sense of self. And, he got a job, he got his driver's license, he got a car, he got his own place. Now he's, traveling across the country, living life. That's a huge success story for Go to Vets to come, from a homeless shelter, a place that was not giving him adequate food. And there were some other issues that we addressed. And then to be moved to another place and to have people surround you that care about you. My partner just embraced him and wrapped around him for 2 years and helped guide him. And we had a lady there that was boots on the ground with us, and she gave him some guidance. And I'm telling you what, when you have solid people in your life that that give a damn about you, that care, beautiful things can happen, Scott. And we just got so many of these stories across the country. We had a single dad with 5 children living in a minivan in Georgia. And we took that family and, we got them out of that minivan. I was able to raise funds for them in one day and help secure them an apartment. They thought they had won $1 million. And not only did we get their apartment, but we filled the apartment with beds, with household goods, with furniture, with a TV. We got them the clothes that they needed. The dad ended up getting a job and becoming self-sufficient. He had just gotten himself into a situation, where he was the sole caretaker for these 5 kids. And it was, he had a couple of younger ones, and it's tough to work when you don't, what are you going to do about childcare? So when you get in those type of predicaments and you don't have a family to support you, who do you have? So he reached out, found out about Go to Vets. We were able to get him back on track. That's a huge success story. That's a whole family we're talking about. Right. It's, that's a domino effect. That's going to impact those children for the rest of their lives. They're going to remember us, and they're going to know that we cared about them.
And that's just 2. As just 2 of the numerous wins and plenty of the ongoing needs. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it really is. There's an organization here in Atlanta called the Veterans Empowerment Organization, and the first time I came on campus, I was really understanding that they were taking homeless veterans that had no documentation, so they don't have their ID, they don't have anything to access the benefits, and that's just such a blind spot. I mean, they even the help they could apply for, they've got that huge barrier. So we've got to figure out a way to make it easier for our veterans to get resources, so they're not living in a van with their children, and that's where groups like yours come into play, because, it's, as we all know, it's tough to change government regulations and policies and legislation, all that stuff. But man, to do what y'all are doing, you just kind of bypass all of that and get to the need with the resources.
No red tape with us. It really, it's a heart mission. We jump right in, and we connect them with the local resources too, because sometimes it's tough to navigate, especially when you're in a situation of homelessness and there's kids involved, and there's a lot of raw emotion involved, and they're just, usually they're on edge. And Cindy just really says, let's take this one day at a time, one step at a time. And she guides them step by step to the resources. And then we are, their biggest resource. We can get them into an apartment. We can fill it. She will help them find a job. We helped take 52 veterans off the streets last year, and it's going to be even more than that this year. So wow. We're really we're making a difference. We are
huge. Did you say 52 veterans off the street in 2020?
In 2020, yeah.
Wow.
We have 2,000 veterans, and 52 of them were homeless.
Wow. Okay. So you've kind of already addressed some of the other needs that folks should be aware of, but is there anything else? We have a variety of listeners, many of which have served, right? But still, we've talked pre-show about even current veterans are kind of oblivious. We all are oblivious to some degree, but everyone needs to be aware of these challenges you're seeing firsthand. What else would you add? Is there anything else you think our listeners got to know about the needs that our veteran community have?
Yeah, Yeah, there's one particular need that we've come across and that we've embraced and made it part of our mission. And initially, I hadn't even thought about it, but I've kind of learned as we grow and grow, and that's funeral expenses. A lot of some of our veterans are, isolated, or they either don't have family or they haven't, talked to family in years, and there's nobody there to claim the body at the morgue. So Codevets, we have taken it on as part of our mission to claim our brothers and sisters in arms and raise funds for them. Or if the family is indigent, there's no insurance policy, we take that on as well. So that's kind of a hidden need that's not talked about a lot. And it is a national issue. We've assisted veterans throughout the country, deceased vets that have been laying in morgues for days and days and nobody's claimed them. And coroners are starting to find out about Codevets. It spreads through word of mouth. Funeral home directors are starting to find out about us, and they will contact us and say, hey, we've got an unclaimed vet. Do you want to assist us with this? So that's really, the donations come into play there. It's so critical for us to raise as much as we can, because we're taking on these challenges, and we offer up to $5,000 per funeral, because we want to give them a dignified funeral. I love our community and I honor their service, and so does my partner, Dr. Cindy Walter. We just want to do what's right for the veteran, and so that's an issue that we've taken on. And there's also something else, is when we have vet suicides, a lot of our widows do not have a lot of money. They were living paycheck to paycheck, and then all of a sudden they lose, if the breadwinner was the veteran, all of these expenses come along, and there's an expense that I was not aware about, and that's professional cleaning after a veteran suicide. So we have started taking care of that as well. There's just so much need in our community, Scott, and a lot of it is kind of brushed under the rug and not talked about because it's a hard topic to talk about. But we need to, and we need to be there for those widows during those times, and to let them know, hey, we've got you. We're here for you, and we're going to do what we can to ease your pain during this time. So there's some different things that we're doing behind the scenes. We don't always put everything out, but those are a couple of the things that we have taken on that's sacred in our community.
Well said. They are absolutely sacred, and they're in a blind spot for so many, including myself. I've never thought about that, especially, and it's a shame given what's also a shame, which is the suicide rate. We've got to get our arms around that. So how can, let's move again. This is an opportunity for folks. This is an opportunity for business leaders, veterans, folks that, look for powerful ways to, make the donations, the budget of donations maybe they have each year, and organizations. So tell us, if you would, tell us a little bit about how you partner with all of the above, and how can folks jump right in and help?
Well, we all need funds, so donations are a great way to support Codevets. We would love to have a business maybe sponsor our 2% operating costs. We did have a Texas couple who covered our costs for this year. So that's important to note that now for this year, the remainder of the year, 100% that comes in will be going directly to veterans. So that's a huge praise report for us. And that's, it's just a load lifted from us. But anyway, we would love to have a business come on board to do that. And, we help veterans in a variety of ways, and that's the funeral expenses. We do utilities, disconnects, evictions, foreclosures, assistance, groceries, auto repos. There's just so many different ways that we touch lives in real time. We're doing this in real time without the red tape, and that's what's unique about Codevets. So if you want to, help in that way, please do. But social media is where we live. It's where I work 7 days a week. You can find us on Twitter @Codevets. And another critical way is to share our mission, is to get on there, create a Twitter page. I promise you, Codevets is worth it. We're doing a lot of great things out there. We put veterans out there daily. We need for that to be shared. We need it to be reposted, because that's how we bring in our donors. That's how we raise awareness of what's going on in our community. And the more that it gets out, the bigger, we grow, and the more veterans we can help. So those are just two really great ways to help Codevets and be a part of our team.
Outstanding. And folks, if I love, again, it's deeds, not words. This is not an organization that, like some nonprofits out there, where they've got a 40% overhead. I mean, this is the beautiful thing here is, and you give Dakota Vets, that is going to find the overwhelming majority is going to find the company or the families in need, the individuals in need, and in crisis, as we've seen some of the projects y'all have been supporting and raising funds for. So, what a great story, Gretchen. I'll tell you and your partner, what was her name again?
Dr. Cindy Walter.
Dr. Cindy Walter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are doing just such an incredible service. We're going to help, you give from what you have. And I wish maybe one day, I wish I could write a big old check and help, but you know what we can do is help get the word out. And we want to do just that. You do have a very unique, I love the grassroots and the social media, element here, because it's so democratic. Anyone can help in. If you can't write a check or make a donation, hey, like it, retweet it, share it, and get the word out. That seems to help as well. So how can folks, so codavets.com, right? That's the URL.
That's right.
Clearly are highly active on Twitter. Is there any other social platforms that you would point people to?
Well, LinkedIn, I'm trying to grow that particular account right now. And then we are on Gab and on Facebook and Instagram. So just follow us out there on social media, because it really is how we survive. And we operate on these platforms, and it's a beautiful way to use these platforms to do something positive, to do something powerful, and to be uplifting and to be a light in our nation right now. And I think it's a great way to do it. And I have to say, I got a phone call from a veteran. I have to end it with this, Scott. He had messaged me his phone number and said, "Would you please call me, Gretchen?" So I gave him a call, and he said, "You don't know me, you don't know my name, and you don't need to." He said, "But I want you to know that one of your tweets saved my life." And he said, "I was sitting at my table." He said, "I'm going through a really, really rough divorce." And he said, "I had a gun in one hand and I had my phone in the other hand, and my phone vibrated. And I looked down, and it was a tweet from Coda Vets, and it was a tweet about hope." And he said, "So I put my gun down and I clicked on that tweet and I read what the veterans were saying underneath it." And he said, "I chose different that day, and I just wanted you to know that." So there is power in social media. We are reaching our veterans one at a time, and it matters. They matter. Their service matters. So I'm really encouraging people to go out and follow us and help us to grow this. We can reduce that number of 22 that we lose every day. Just by being out there and letting them know that we care.
Wow. Okay. I agree with you. It takes leadership, it takes action, and it takes people like Gretchen Smith and Dr. Cindy Walter and all of the folks that jump in and help support what you are doing. So, folks, we've been talking with Gretchen Smith, founder of Coda Vets. You can learn more and jump into and help support their mission at codavets.com. Gretchen, thanks so much for your time. We'll have you back. Maybe we'll have to jump on, do a live stream, and help continue to get y'all's message out there. You're doing critical work for our community. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet. Okay, folks, I told you, it was going to be a powerful, intriguing, but uplifting and inspirational conversation here today. So hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I have. I appreciate you joining us. Hey, find us across social. And if you're a veteran that has a story to tell, you want to get your voice out there, reach out. And we'll see if we can't get you into our production schedule. But most importantly, wishing you the best wherever you are, but you got to do good, give forward, be the change that's needed, be just like Gretchen. And on that note, we'll see you next time right here at Veteran Voices. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.